So yesterday we got a ton of information and news directly from Call of Duty themselves regarding the Season 2 update for Warzone, the future of Warzone, and Modern Warfare 2 and Warzone 2 information. Not only that, but they've also been extremely open and honest about the issues that Warzone has faced since the launch of the game. This all just sounds surreal to me because honestly, for years now, I've been complaining about the lack of communication from Activision and the fact that they don't talk to us. They just sort of treat us like absolute shit, and they haven't really been that open with us at all until today, which honestly, all the stuff they've talked about today makes me extremely happy, and it makes me think that we actually have a bright future ahead of us as Call of Duty fans. Now, most likely you've heard a lot of this information already from actual news channels like, say, Prestige is Key, so I'm going to try my best to be as quick as possible about it today, but I do want to give the news side of it and also give my personal thoughts and opinions side today, so it's probably going to be a longer video. So if you are new around here and you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure you leave a like, and with all that out of the way, we're going to get into the blog post that Call of Duty released themselves about Season 2 and the future of Warzone and Call of Duty. Now, there is an absolute ton of information here that I'm going to talk about, and I'm not going to go through all of it, and I'm not going to show all of it on the screen because there is just so much. So if you want to read any of this for yourself, I'll leave the links down in the description below to where I'm getting all this information from. But without the way, let's get into the blog post. Now, the first thing they say is their #1 priority for their developers is quality of life, making changes that allow Warzone to be more accessible and less frustrating for our community. Examples of this include over 30 improvements coming as Season 2's launch, including improvements in all forms of movement, vehicle handling, parachute deploying at lower vertical height, increased player mantle height, and collision fixes to both vehicles and players. The gas mask animation no longer interrupting operators who aim down sights. When inserting armor plates, it refills a full plate of armor before filling damaged ones. This is in addition to fixing bugs and issues. In Season 2, we are addressing several issues, including the following ones: performance and streaming issues, including buy station freezes, voice chat connectivity and distorted graphics, specific operator skins being invisible at certain distances, and blockages to Modern Warfare multiplayer, which is tied to Warzone's launcher. Then they talk about the fact that they do see all of our communication, but they don't always have the time to communicate back to us. They assure us that their developers and everyone at the team always sees our complaints, even though they might not respond all the time. Now, just first off, everything that we've just talked about is extremely good. This has been complaints that everybody has had since the launch of Warzone, at least me personally. Things like the gas mask animation, the armor plates not doing fully, like the full plate, it was just like a damaged one. All of this is incredible in my opinion, and I must say it is about time. Even though it is very, very late, it's, you know, better late than never in my opinion. Then they talk about FOV for Warzone. Now, they have said that they're not going to be adding an FOV slider to Warzone, and to be honest, I do actually understand their position on it. So they've said that they've been working on it for absolutely ages, and they just can't seem to get it working on the last gen consoles. And the reason they don't want to add it to next-gen consoles or anything like that is because the last-gen consoles is their biggest player base. And if they then add it to next-gen consoles, it increases the skill gap in between next-gen and last-gen and, you know, PC as well. So it'll all just mess things up. And I think what they're trying to say is they're going to save it for Warzone 2, which I'm not sure if it will come on last-gen or not. I'd assume it is if last-gen is their biggest market. However, they have openly addressed the FOV slider and they said they aren't going to be adding it, which I have to say I'm really upset about, because that is probably my #1 complaint with Warzone, and it has been for a long time. However, I do understand why they aren't adding it, and I just have to accept it, I suppose. But anyway, then they talk about the future of Call of Duty. They talk about this year's Call of Duty, which is a sequel to Modern Warfare 2019. They have the new game and a new Warzone experience designed together from the ground up. They tell us to expect a massive evolution of Battle Royale with all new player space and a new sandbox mode. New engine powers both the new Call of Duty game release and Warzone, and development on both Call of Duty and Warzone is being led by Infinity Ward. So a lot of this we did know already, but it's just one of those things where, like, it's really nice to hear it officially. Modern Warfare 2 is going to be this year's Call of Duty game. We are getting the Warzone 2, and they're completely redesigning both games from the ground up. And To be honest, when they say completely redesigned, I feel like they're just sort of upgrading the previous 2 iterations, so Modern Warfare 2019 and Warzone. I don't think they're going to completely redesign it and completely mix it up because those formats are very successful. But at the same time, they're not going to do what Vanguard and Cold War did, where they just copy and paste what Modern Warfare did. Next up, we're going to be talking about everything to do with what the developers from Infinity Ward and Activision have been talking about regarding the current state of Warzone and what their plans are for the future as well to sort of fix it with Season 2 and all future seasons of Vanguard, I suppose, up until Warzone 2. So they've come out and said that they're not happy with the state that Warzone finds itself in, and they've admitted they have learned the upper limits of their technologies. They attempted to integrate games into Warzone over the last couple years. Warzone was only originally built to be sort of an extra mode to Modern Warfare 2019, but after its incredible success just across the world, they wanted to incorporate it into the future COD titles, which is why with Black Ops Cold War and Vanguard they integrated it in there to sort of keep Warzone going. This caused significant development changes which left the game feeling bloated with the additional Black Ops Cold War and Vanguard. This left Warzone in a state of limbo where it didn't feel like Modern Warfare anymore, but it didn't feel like Black Ops or anything else. It was just sort of its own thing. This bloated state made it even harder to find bugs and patch them quickly due to how much was going on in the game at one time. They were very candid about the issues facing the game, and they were also hopeful for the future and promised they are determined to fix the issues with the game. They also emphasized that they plan to provide better communication with their fanbase about fixes for issues while focusing more on quality of life improvements rather than just new features all the time. That final part has me really happy because I think that is probably the most important thing in a game these days is quality of life. You could have an incredible game but it's literally unplayable because of how many bugs there are, or you could have a pretty good game which is absolutely flawless, has no bugs whatsoever. I think people would rather play the pretty decent game which is flawless as opposed to being frustrated all the time by a certain game with a ton of bugs. They've actually come out as well and said that it was embarrassing to launch the Caldera update in December and then have it broken for weeks, and that's why they had Season 2 delayed, because they pushed for that delay on Season 2 so they could sort of play catch up and actually get the Caldera update fixed. And that is pretty much the #1 thing that's wrong with Call of Duty is time constraints and no delays, and I think Caldera is the #1 prime example of what happens when you don't have enough time. And that's what I'm hoping for with this whole Microsoft Activision acquisition, is that they actually aren't afraid to sort of delay their games and take a year off or something, because I reckon with more time they can make these games 10 times better. But obviously because they're always on time constraints, they don't have enough time, they're always playing catch up, the games always suffer because of that, and that's why we're seeing this Season 2 sort of quality of life overhaul, and they sort of sat down and realized that they need to do this because otherwise the game is just going to suffer for the next however many months. Also, they've hinted that they're working on a feature set to allow players to set matchmaking parameters about who they matchmake against, like platforms and inputs, and they don't have a confirmed release date for that, but if they was to release that, that would be really good. Personally, as somebody who is an Xbox player, obviously I don't want to be coming against people with 120 FOV who are on M&K, because they're just going to be better than me, like straight up. So I'd rather just play against Xbox and PlayStation players. They've also shown interest in doing a ranked mode for Warzone, but they've said they wanted to do ranked correctly, and they need to consider the timing of it, and they want to make sure it doesn't come out completely broken, which I understand completely. I think a lot of people have been asking for a ranked Warzone players for a long time, and it's nice to see that they're actually showing interest in this, and I think that's a great step in the right direction as well, saying that they don't want it to be released completely broken, so I think that's great. The developers also confirmed they do believe prioritizing quality of life updates is important, and that with the state of Warzone right now, that's more important than new features. I think everybody's been saying this for absolutely ages. Like I said previously, I think quality of life is the #1 most important thing in games at the moment, and I think a lot of game developers sort of forgotten about quality of life, and instead they try to focus on brand new features and all this, jazz stuff. But at the end of the day, if your game is buggy, people aren't going to want to play it no matter how good it is. Infinity Ward's Pat Kelly has said they don't always get things right, and it takes a long time to fix some things which they want to change. We fuck things up, but then they say that we break our backs to try and make the best games we can. He says also that they're extremely excited to this year's game, and they say there's a lot in it, and and they've also teased some big updates with a new sandbox mode as well for Warzone, which I reckon is probably going to be like a Fortnite Creative or whatever it's called. They say that launching Caldera in December before the holidays was a mistake, and that is definitely apparent now, considering they're still trying to play catch up with all the bugs and stuff that's still in the game. So it's glad to see that they are sort of taking responsibility for these issues. And Pat Kelly also said he has an interest in boost jumps and jetpack COD, so if you didn't like those games, there you go. There's some reassuring news. And the final bit of information, the devs say that actions speak louder than words when they are working to make updates starting with Season 2 to fix the game, and that they will not make excuses for how messed up it is right now. So that is absolutely everything I wanted to talk about in terms of the news side of it in today's video. That is everything that I could find on Charlie Intel, on Call of Duty's official socials, and I just want to say, all of this stuff we've talked about today has me extremely excited for the future of Call of Duty, with Modern Warfare 2, with Warzone 2, and I just absolutely adore their tenacity for making these games more bug-free, and they're focusing more on quality of life, which I've said multiple times, I absolutely love that. Just small things like, you know, the gas mask animation could cause you to just lose the game, and it's just one of those small things where it's like, oh, it's so annoying that it's been in the game for 2 years now. And just small things like that just can really get under players' skins. I know it does for me as well. And I just really love the fact that they are focusing on the quality of life side of things, and they're talking about how they completely messed up with the previous sort of updates, like say launching Caldera before the holidays. Also with integrating Cold War and Vanguard into the game, the platform simply cannot handle it, and that's why we see problems with Modern Warfare 2019. That's why we see loads of problems with Warzone, and it gets to a point where there's so much content in the game where they just can't figure out why bugs are happening. I feel like a lot of this players have known for a long time anyway, but to hear them come out publicly and admit it and take responsibility for their actions and, you know, just sort of, I suppose, apologize to their players, it just makes me so happy, because I don't think we've ever seen this with Activision and Call of Duty at all, and I really highly respect the devs for coming out and saying this. So anybody who sits there and says the devs don't care and, you know, they're not very good, I just don't think that's true at all. And to be honest, when the devs sit down and look at Twitter and they see a bunch of people saying they don't care, I can only imagine how upset they would be, because I know for a fact that the devs do care about this game, but a lot of it is probably to do with Activision's time constraints and, you know, certain things they want to do. The devs don't have as much control as you would think. But anyway, that's all I want to talk about with today's video. I know it has been a much longer video, but there's so much to talk about today, and there's so much information they've released, and to be honest, I'm really excited for the future of Call of Duty. Modern Warfare 2, Warzone 2 is going to be phenomenal. I reckon they'll probably release Warzone 2 as its own separate game on its own separate launcher, and they'll probably have them standalone from the different, like, say, what, like Black Ops 6. They probably won't integrate that game into Warzone. They'll probably have Warzone as its own separate thing, I would imagine. But yeah, that's going to do it for today. So thank you guys for watching. If you've enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like and also subscribe if you are new around here. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.